Next, I'm going to model how to write a conclusion based on the This Mortal Coil essay that we have been writing and modeling together in class. So my process here is going to be a little bit different. I'm really glad that I haven't looked at this essay in a week because that really gives me time to kind of reflect on the whole argument and look at how it all fits together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by looking at my outline, and then I'm going to move into each section of my conclusion and kind of talk you through what I did. So our claim was that excessive control overpowers identity. So how did I prove that in my essay? I'm going to look at my outline again, and I'm going to really look at my 3 reasons that I talked about. So I talked about how Kat discovers she does not have hypergenesis. I talked about how after decrypting the vaccine, Kat finds that Lachlan has concealed who she truly is. And then finally, the last reason was that Lachlan adds code to the vaccine in order to deactivate the wrath. And by doing that, he's attempting to control not only Kat, but also everyone in the world. So my reasons build on each other. Now I really need to say, okay, how does this all show that excessive control overpowers identity? And if I did a really good job of proving my theme, is there something in the world or something in another book or something that I can connect this to that'll make my essay more relevant to everyone? And we're really, I wouldn't say lucky, but I think this book really connects to what we're going through right now with COVID-19, the coronavirus, and I think there's a lot of parallels that you can make no matter what your argument is. So the thesis statement, excessive control overpowers identity. The first step was to restate that. This is where I like to reuse the book title and the name of the author because I want the reader to feel like, you know what, we're coming to an end. This is the last paragraph you're reading. It should feel final and kind of like when you're watching fireworks on the 4th of July and you can tell when the grand finale starts because all of a sudden, there's like a pause and then kind of an explosion of everything that you've seen so far, only all together. So I guess that's the best metaphor I have for a conclusion right now. So I restated my thesis statement by saying, This Mortal Coil by Emily Suvada demonstrates that too much centralized power and control leads to a loss of identity. Basically, I reordered the sentence that I used for my thesis and tacked that part on about this mortal coil. Next step is to connect the dots by reflecting on the whole argument. So I said, in a crisis situation, leaders must make decisions that alter the course of humanity. And this is where I'm really kind of thinking about what do I see in the world right now that connects to the book and connects to my argument? Where do I see excessive control overpowering identity in the real world or in another book? Lachlan possesses a great deal of power due to his work with Cartaxis to develop the vaccine. However, he uses his power to control others and manipulate them into achieving his end goal to suppress the wrath in the world population. So that's my summary of what I talked about. In order to achieve his goal, he prevents Kat from accessing her DNA by creating an elaborate lie that she has hypergenesis, manipulating her memories and sense of self in order to recruit her to his cause. Kat resists his plan. Although Kat understands the negative impact of the wrath, she rejects Lachlan's impulse to suppress the gene in others without their consent. At the conclusion of the book, Kat must make sense of her own identity in the aftermath of her father's excessive control. So in that section, I summarized my 3 points, but I also kind of tried to look kind of at the big picture. What is this book saying about power and control? Next step is to explain why this is important and why is it important outside of the book. So this is where I really thought about what we've been going through. So I said, during public health emergencies, governments gain power to control individual behaviors. As the world faces the COVID-19 pandemic and takes important measures such as quarantine to limit the spread of the coronavirus, people must confront their behavior and make temporary sacrifices for the good of the group, similar to the decisions made by characters in the novel. So now I've stepped outside of the book, so it's really important that I connected back to This Mortal Coil, back to my novel at the end of my paragraph. Because remember, this is what I want to leave everybody with, the final impression. So I need a concluding sentence connecting the big picture back to the theme. Although Lachlan's excessive manipulation is rooted in a desire to rid the population of the wrath, he was willing to sacrifice individual identity for the sake of his ultimate. How do we resume our lives when so many things have changed? Like Kat, we too will need to make new sense of our identity in the aftermath of the virus. So in that last sentence, I made sure that I connected both the book and my real world example back to each other. That way it doesn't feel random. It doesn't feel like, well, why am I mentioning this example from the real world when I was talking about the book? The point is to show that my theme statement can also apply to other situations or other books or other examples. So with that in mind, what we would like you to do is to revisit your outline, take a look at some of the main points that you argued, and really think about how they connect to a bigger picture. Your next step is going to be to go to your conclusion slide and finish up your conclusion. If you did not finish reason 3, some of you still had a couple of things left to do in that from the week before spring break. So make sure you do that first and then move on to your conclusion. Please email me, Ms. Collins, or Ms. Handel if you have any questions about writing the conclusion or just want feedback on your slide. We'll be online and active to take a look and give you some feedback. Have a great day.